Today on Twin Cam, the fourth and final part of Little Melody's service. So in the past 3 videos we've been basically going over the engine of this car. And so we've done quite a lot of work. We've had an entire new ignition system, we've done an oil change in the oil filter, we've done the valve clearances, we've given the car a new rocker cover gasket because that was leaking horrendously, air filter, dashpot oil, all the just general stuff that you'd be doing on a car to keep it healthy. But today we're going to be turning our attention to the suspension, because with this being a Metro, there are a few, one archaic thing and one odd thing that we need to do to keep the car in fine fettle. So today we're going to be pumping up the Hydragas suspension, and then we're going to be greasing all the suspension joints. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may have seen that I've done a full video on just pumping up Hydragas suspension and hydroelastic suspension and explaining how it all works, why you need to pump it up, and what it actually does to the system. So when we're pumping up the suspension now, I'm not fixing the horrendous ride quality, I'm purely making the damping stiffer and therefore making the ride heights higher as well. That's just how hydroelastic and, well, Hydragas, it's just how it works. So I have a big jug here of hydroelastic suspension fluid. It's this luminescent yellowy greeny stuff that fills the suspension. It's not oil based, so a few people in the past have tried to put some kind of mineral oil, you know, like Citron LHM or something like that, into the suspension of a Metro or another hydroelastic Hydragas equipped BL car, and they've broken the system as a result. This is water based, not oil based, so if you're gonna do hydroelastic suspension, just get a jug of the proper stuff. It's not expensive. You could also make it if you want to do a bit of chemistry, but just get a proper jug of the stuff. And we also have here my hydroelastic pump, which is just a pressure tester really with a Schrader valve on the end of it. And that's as simple as it is really. These cost pre-assembled about 90 quid or something on the internet. So if you've got a BL car and you want to be keeping it for quite a while and you want to do this stuff yourself, just buy one. So we have all the bits here. We're only going to be pumping up the rear end of the car because as I mentioned in the last video and the video before, the front end of the car was up on stands for a different job which will be coming in a video soon. So the front end of the car has already been pumped up to something approaching the correct height. So all we're actually going to do today is pump up the rear end of the car to allow it to meet the same ride height as the front. Now, I'm not doing it to BL's actual specifications for the height, partially because I've parked the car on a curb, so it's not actually level, and secondly because the tyres are the wrong size on this car, so they affect how, you know, the stance of the car, how the car sits. So we're just going to be doing the rear end, bringing it up to the same height as the front. So, as I've alluded to previously, A-Series and K-Series Metros are different when it comes to the Hydragas, and it's why I'm lying down on the floor now. See, every other hydroelastic and Hydragas car, apart from the A-Series Metros, so that's the Austin and MGs, has the units independent side to side, but linked front to back on each side. The A-Series Metro has the 2 front units independent, and the 2 rear units linked side to side. It makes no engineering sense to do that, but they did it anyway. So here we are, and what that means is that it's okay to have this car on a slightly unlevel surface. There's a bumblebee that looks as though it's dying. That's a shame. Anyway, it's the reason it's okay to have this car on unlevel ground, because the rear end all goes up together. So we're just doing the back end of the car today, as I said, and the valve is actually in front of this wheel on this side of the car, just near the exhaust. I'll put a little shot up of it now, and it doesn't have a cap on it. So I'll find a valve cap, just the same kind of cap as you'd find on a tyre. It's the same valve as you'd find on a tyre, so it's nice and easy. So what I need to do, I put the I've filled up the reservoir with fluid and I have pumped it through the pipe a couple of times so that there is actually fluid in the pipe. This is so much more awkward than it is on a K-Series Metro. And this valve needs to be absolutely square to the valve to screw on, because if it isn't, it won't. Right, so that is on. I just need to now tighten it up with a 17mm spanner. So back underneath. Well, it turns out it's an 18, not a 17. I think I've made that mistake twice now, but there you go, it's tightened. So the T-bar on the connector is turned all the way out, as it should have been before you put the pipe on. And the valve on the pump itself is closed. So now, we should be able to turn the T-bar on here and it should let us into the system. So I've turned the T-bar round and suddenly the pressure on the gauge on the pump has gone up. So it's about 250 psi. I don't actually want to pump it up all that much. Again, partly because the tyres are really, really chunky. And second of all, because I'm not pumping it up to Austin Rover's factory height. The height that they say it should be at is obviously correct and it leads to the best characteristics, but it's very, very high. And the cars look a little bit weird. So I'm just trying to make it level, as I said. So let gravity do its thing by letting all the fluid come forwards. And then we're going to open this valve here. And we get fluid coming in. So, you see the car sinking? So there's the car that's sinking down. And I'm just trying to get all the air out of the system. Get the air out of this pipe and any that's in the suspension. So there's still a bit of air in there, so what I'm going to do is I've closed up that valve and I'm going to pump a little bit of fluid into the suspension and then let some out again to bleed it, because I don't want to let the system all the way down, because then you're naturally introducing air to fill the gap. So I don't want to do that, so there's the car, actually a little bit higher than it was when we started, but I'm going to let it down again. There you go. I think all the air is out of it now. I can't hear any air coming out of this hose when I'm opening the valve. So we should be free now to just pump it up to the height we want. Oh, and the other thing is that it's very common when you find in a car like this, you know, an old car that isn't in absolutely pristine condition. It's very, very common to find that the suspension has been filled up with antifreeze, or the fluid in there is horrendously rusty. But fortunately, the fluid is really, really clean in this car, and I expected that, because when I did the front end, it was just the same. Again, video coming on that soon, but yeah, I'm very pleased to see that the fluid is in mint condition. So that's now mixed in with the new stuff. And I don't feel the need to pour all this away and put new stuff in. We can just start pumping it up. So, let's get to work. So I'm off camera now, but I've just opened the boot. I'm just going to shake the car up and down to get the fluid through that pipe between the two rear suspension units, to get it kind of equalised, to kind of exercise the suspension to get it to the height that it's actually going to sit at. And so it's better before you do this actually to go out for a drive, because if you do this on a car that's been sat for ages, you pump it to the correct height, and then when you go out for a drive, it sits 3 inches higher than the height you set it to. So that, let's get up again, that looks like a very, very reasonable height. In fact, I think it's a little bit higher than the front. It is a bit higher than the front. Let me just do the same to the front end. So yeah, the rear end is at about the same height, if not ever so slightly higher than the front. I'm going to let a tiny little bit of fluid out of that. Just that. A little bit more actually. I think that'll do us. So there you go, there's pumping up the rear end of the car. Not correctly, it should be pumped up to the spec height, and really the displacers, they actually need regassing to make the ride quality good, but just to at least make the car look right, we will pump it up to the correct height, correct-ish. So it looks alright now. There's a bit of an arch gap there as well, which is good. If I drive the car and find out it's ridiculously high at the back, I'll just come back to it and let a little bit of fluid out of it, but that should do us. So, to safely unhook the system, of course, we've got 300 psi's worth of fluid in this, so we don't just want to be just undoing it, because it won't end well with 300 psi in it. So, we turn that little T-bar on the valve itself round to the left. So we're now disconnected from the system on the car end. So all the fluid is just in the hose. That 300 odd psi is just in the hose now. So if we take that down, that's now 0. So we're now away from the system. No danger of us getting our eyes full of hydroelastic fluid by spurting out. So I should take my 18mm spanner, unhook this. I shall get a little valve and I shall put it on the little valve cap and put it on the valve so that it's protected, and we'll move on to greasing the suspension. So I decided we'll start at the same corner we've just worked on. So I have my grease gun and I've got the car jacked up off the ground so that we've taken the weight off the suspension joint. So on the back of a Metro, there's one grease nipple on each side and they're just in front of each wheel. I'll put a picture on the screen of where it is. Ignore the rust, that will be dealt with as soon as the weather gets better. It's the end of May currently and the weather is still horrendous. Spring doesn't even seem to have arrived, never mind summer. But anyway, so I've cleaned up this grease nipple. Whoa. So hopefully it will actually pump into the arm, which it is doing. And there we go. That arm is full. There you go. So I'll clean myself up because I managed to get grease everywhere, as is absolutely standard. And see, the weather's just turned like that. You never have a nice day this year. It's been nice for a few hours and then it turns horrendous again. So there you go. So there's one side of the suspension greased. I'll do the other side off camera and we'll move on to the front. Well, I lied. Unfortunately, while I was doing the other side at the back, my grease gun ran out of grease and I don't have the time or will to go out and buy another tube of grease for my grease gun. So unfortunately, I'm going to leave it there. If for some reason you are desperate to see me greasing the front end of a Metro, then I've done a video on it on Melvin. Slightly different, but it's virtually the same. But that was a long time ago, so I'll put a card up in the corner if you are interested in seeing how to grease the front end of a Metro as well. But I will get that done at some point on my own when I can be bothered. It needs doing, but the rear end is more critical, so thankfully I did start with the back. Because the trailing arm bearings can fail and you can end up having some mad camber on the back, like I have with Melvin actually, because that car hasn't had its greasing kept up through its life. So there we are. There is, will be, once I've finished it off camera, Melody's service finished. So now we're going to get on to beautifying the car. So I'm going to do interior stuff and obviously exterior stuff as well. We're going to be detailing the engine bay as well. We're going to be doing all kinds of things to make this car look a lot better and a little bit different as well. So until then, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please do click like and subscribe to TwinCam as well. I'm forever indebted to my wonderful Patreon supporters, so if you'd like to support me that way, then please do follow the link in the description. And I'll have more videos coming along soon.